Hello, everyone, and welcome to Introduction to Safe Drone Flying for Teams. My name is Joanna. I'm a Programming and Outreach Coordinator at the Anne Arundel County Public Library, and I will be your host today. We're so excited to be able to host this STEM event, and you can find more STEM events at aacpl.net/aacplstem. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the Anne Arundel County Public Library Foundation for their generous support of our programs and all of the work that we do. Throughout the presentation today, we'll be using polls to ask questions. Please feel free to fill them out and share your answers with us. For anyone watching on YouTube, please feel free to share your answers in the comments, and we'll be sure to include those responses too. Also, please feel free to use the chat and the Q&A features for any questions you may have. Our presenter today is excited to be able to answer them. And now I'd like to introduce our presenter for the program today, Tim Tumulty. Tim, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Tumulty, and I am the Anne Arundel County Community College drone instructor. And what I'm in my backyard today, and that overhead picture you just saw was me flying around outside, and I just brought it down and landed here in my backyard to show you what we can do with drones. So I have a little presentation today that's going to start and kind of show you some of the rules and all the things you need to be a safe drone pilot. So I'm going to bring up a little PowerPoint thing here, but we want to keep this casual and fun. So if you have any questions at all, go ahead and put those in the chat, and Joanna can interrupt me and at the right time and ask any of your questions, because your questions is what's going to make this little PowerPoint fun. You guys have all been learning online, and we know how much fun PowerPoint is. I'm a college instructor, so I do this all the time, and it is more fun when the students get to react and interact with us. So let me share my screen. And now you're going to see the PowerPoint slide. Let's see if we can make it bigger than that. There we go. Okay. Joanna, how does that look? Are you seeing my other parts of?
Yep, that looks great.
Okay, so here it is, Introduction to Safe Drone Flying. So who am I? So my name is Tim Tumulty, and where I come from is I went to school here at the Naval Academy back in the 80s. I spent my career in the Navy flying EA-6B prowlers mostly out of Whidbey Island, Washington, and then other places in the world. My last tour of duty was teaching at the Naval Academy in the 2000s, and we retired here. And now I am teaching over at Anne Arundel Community College. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be talking about drones today. So I'm going to talk, we're going to have a couple polls throughout here. So let's start with the first poll, and we'll get a question coming up here, and everybody can answer it, and we'll have a little idea of who we have with us today. So this is just trying to figure out what the age of attendees is. And these ages are interesting, the reason I picked them. So if you're less than 13, your parents need to register your drone if it's over a half a pound. If you're over 13, you can register your own drone. And if you're over 16, you can actually take the FAA commercial drone exam. I'm just trying to figure out where we are so I can tell you where you fit there.
Like we've got the polls being answered. We've got a few more people who are going to respond, and then I will show everyone the answers.
Okay. So it looks like we have 1 under 13 and 5 over 13, but nobody over 16. So what I want you guys to know is that even though you're under 13 or under 16, these rules still apply. So the rules are for flying drones, and it doesn't matter what your age is. So listen up. It's not hard to stay out of trouble, and that's what I want to do, is keep you from getting in trouble. So I'm going to start with what I call just kind of basic rules, and then we'll go into like the real FAA rules, but this is the easier way. So if we can stop. Have you already shared the results? Or is that for me to do?
I did. I shared the results.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And then there we go. So I didn't know if you could see that on my screen or not. So here are my simple rules for being a safe drone pilot. So the first one is be a good neighbor. You want your people around you to know what you're doing and not be out there annoying people or being a nuisance to your neighbor. Believe it or not, today when I was flying just before this class, my neighbor stopped by. He goes, "Hey, I see you have a drone up." And I landed the drone and I talked to him and he wanted to see it, so I showed him the drone and I told him I was going to do this brief, and he was thrilled. He didn't that, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I know why you're flying a drone," and he didn't feel like I was spying on him. So that's the first thing. Just be a good neighbor. The second is always be in control of your drone and avoid other aircraft. So you always have to keep sight of your drone and be in control of it. So you don't want to fly any out of control drones out there. So you always have to fly the drone where you can see it, and you only fly below 400 feet. So the maximum that you can fly a drone is 400 feet, which is really high. Today, that drone, I didn't look, but it was probably about 100, 150 feet in the air. It wasn't really high, and I could see over the tops of the trees all the way out to the Magothy River. So, and the third one is only fly the drone where you have permission. So there's some FAA rules about where you can fly a drone in the airspace, but you also have to be cognizant of where you're taking off from. So there can be rules about where you're standing. So you have to have permission to fly in the airspace and take off and land from where you're standing. So those are the simple rules. We're going to go into some more details. Joanna, are there any questions yet?
So we did have one question through YouTube. Someone wanted to know what class you were at the Naval Academy because their mom was class of 89.
Oh, at the Naval Academy, I was class of 88. So that's pretty close. Okay, I was going to say next slide, but I can do that. So there are a bunch of legal rules, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but I wanted everyone to know that Congress passed a law called the 2018 FAA Reauthorization Act, and the FAA is for the Federal Aviation Administration. And so those are real live laws passed by Congress that tell us how and where we can fly drones. And they apply to everyone, not just to adults, but anybody who wants to fly a drone. And then they're further defined in this aircraft circular. But what we're going to talk about today is there is an exception in this law for recreational operation of unmanned aircraft. And that's what you are as under 16. If you're going out and flying a drone, you're a recreational pilot and you're out there just to have fun. And we're going to show you how. So what is recreational drone flying? So recreational drone flying means you're flying it for fun. What recreational drone flying isn't is when you're flying it in the furtherance of a business. And what the FAA defines that is that if you're flying a drone to get paid, or if you have a benefit, if you're doing any type of photograph for any type of marketing idea, or any flying for a commercial business, a nonprofit business, not-for-profit businesses, if you're flying for somebody else and they're going to get a benefit from your work, then you are no longer just flying for fun. So as long as you're out flying for fun, taking pictures of your family, doing anything that you're just going to use for your own personal use, you're a recreational drone pilot. And these rules will apply to you. And since you have to be over 16 to become a commercial pilot, you really can't be working as a drone pilot because you can't get a commercial license yet. So this first thing I have a strange picture up here. I have a picture of two sticks of butter and some concrete. So anybody want to guess why I have two sticks of butter? I think I have another poll question coming up. So why do you think I have two sticks of butter on my slide?
So we've got a couple people answering. Give everyone just another moment or two. And if you're watching us through YouTube, feel free to share your answer in the chat.
Okay, so looks like 83% of the people think I have two sticks of butter there because it weighs a half a pound. And You know what? I'm going to say you're both right because it is. It's easy. It's as easy as microwaving popcorn to register your drone. And the reason I do have 2 sticks of butter is 2 sticks of butter weighs a half a pound, and that's when you have to register your drone. So believe it or not, I didn't know what a half a pound felt like, and I went into the refrigerator. I grabbed 2 sticks of butter, and I put 2 sticks of butter in one hand, and I held my drone in the other, and I was like, okay, yeah, my drone weighs more than these 2 sticks of butter. I better check this out. Another way you can do it is you can, Google your drone, and you can usually find, on the website how much it weighs. So I'm going to take away these results. Okay, so and my drone is actually reported as, in grams, so it says 0.55 pounds, and everybody goes, that's a weird weight. 0.55 pounds. Well, that's because the rest of the world uses the metric system, and 0.55 pounds is 250 grams. So anything at 250 grams or more has to be registered, or 0.55 pounds, with the FAA. So let's see what the rules here on the slide say. Required for drones weighing greater than 0.55 pounds. And I just use a half a pound. That's close enough for me. Person registering the drone must be at least 13 years of age. So if you're over 13, you can register a drone. And like I said, it's as easy as microwaving popcorn. And you can do it at this website here, faadrozone.faa.gov. Now, it does cost $5, and that $5 is for every drone that you have. So once you go on and register your first drone, they'll give you a registration number, and as a recreational drone pilot, you can put that same number on all your drones, and it's valid for 3 years. And the reason is the FAA just wants to know, if they find a drone, who does this belong to? Because if it gets lost, they can bring it back to you. So the one thing, so once you register your drone, because it weighs more than a half a pound, then you have to put an external label on your drone with the registration number. And I think my next slide here, has a picture here of how to label your drone. So we can, down here at the bottom, it says you can engrave it, with an engraver. What I use a label maker, and I, type out the drone number and the registration number, and I put it on a label, and I just stick that label to the outside of my drone. Or you can just use a permanent marker. You can use a Sharpie, and the only requirement is that it's on the outside of your drone, and you can see it for when you pick it up. So those are the requirements. Actually, you're right here. I'm gonna run and grab my drone, and I'll show you. I know my screen is small up there, but I think you might be able to see me. So this is my drone that was just flying up there. And on the side of it, I've got a big number there. And that number is my registration number for my drone. Now, even though I'm a commercial pilot, I have to follow some of the same rules. And one of the rules is I have to register all my drones. So I think I have a question here coming up. Do we have another poll?
Let me check. We do, and I'm launching it right now.
So let's see. The question is, your drone has to be labeled to be, your drone label has to be on the outside of your drone when you fly a drone outside, both on the outside of your drone and when you fly your drone outside. So we had 6 people answer. 6 people said on the outside of your drone. That is a correct answer. And this was kind of a trick question, So yes, it has to be on the outside of your drone, and it has to be outside of the drone when you fly outside. And this is an interesting point I was going to bring up here, is that all these rules apply to flying your drone outside. If you have a small drone and you're flying it in your house, then the FAA doesn't make rules about inside. So if you're in your house, in a hangar, in a building, in a tunnel somewhere, all those things, the FAA doesn't rule the airspace interior or inside places. The FAA owns all the airspace outside. So your drone has to be registered if you're going to fly it outside, and the drone has to be labeled on the outside of the drone. So I thought I had a little fun with that question. It gave me a chance to tell you that the FAA only has rules for the outside airspace. So let's see. We're going to take a little closer look at what the real FAA rules were, because the first rules I talked about were just my fun way of doing things. Fly safe, be a good neighbor, keep control of your drone. So let's see. We already covered first the 4 formal rules. The first one is register your drone. We just talked all about that. And then you have to carry proof of your registration with you. So in my drone bag, I have a registration form for this drone. So if anyone ever asks me, I have my registration. And then since I'm a commercial pilot, I also carry my drone license with me. So let's see. Fly only for recreational purposes. So we covered that. That's if you're flying for fun and you're not making any money or benefiting anyone else. We talked about flying below 400 feet and only where you have permission. So we're going to take a little closer look at permissions. And this gets a little heavy, but we'll make it a little bit fun, hopefully. So Joanna, are there any questions out there before we get into the rules?
Yeah, so Leaf mentioned that he thought it was a really nice drone that you had. And I was curious, what kind of drone is it that you were showing off?
Yeah, so this is a Mavic 2 Pro. So it's one of those collapsible drones. It is a really nice drone. So it collapses a little bit. It's pretty big, but it's just a little bigger than the palm of your hand. DJI makes a lot of drones and a lot of different sizes, everything from giant commercial drones they use for making movies to this is a pretty good professional sized drone that folds up into a nice little package. And they make a Mavic Mini that looks just like this, that is probably about half the size. So that's a good question. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay, so let's see. We'll take a little closer look at the rules here. So the 2 things I like to ask when I'm going to fly is, can I fly here? Do I have permission to take off and land? So with that meaning, who owns the property and what are their rules? So I know for a fact that the Anne Arundel County Public Schools, you are not allowed to fly on school property without permission from the school board. And there's a form, and I fill it out because I work with the public schools a lot. I'm going to fly with Broadneck High School next week because we're going to take some pictures of Goshen Farms. If anybody online goes to Cape Elementary School, Goshen Farm is right there in the backyard there, and both the Cape Elementary School and Broadneck High School use that property. So I'm going to help the environmental teacher take some pictures. But I had to fill out paperwork and request permission from the school board to take off and land from school property. So if you're on private property, if I was going to fly somewhere at a friend's house or something, I would just make sure it's okay with their parents that I fly a drone at their house or anywhere else. If you're on public property, you need to look up beforehand. Like I know you can't fly at the Naval Academy. The Naval Academy is federal land, and they have federal rules saying no one can fly drones at the Naval Academy without permission. And then they have rules where you go and fill out paperwork and ask permission from them to fly a drone. And they would want to know why, and you have to meet their requirements. So that's taking off and landing. Then the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, they have rules about airspace, and they own all the airspace from right above, where I'm standing. So once you leave the ground, the FAA can make rules about what you do in the airspace. So that's what they say, an inch above the ground, the FAA can make rules about the airspace. And one of the rules they have is don't fly above 400 feet and in certain types of airspace. Now, we're not going to go into all this different stuff, but they have names for all their different airspace, and they go by letters, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. And the one that we're allowed to fly in is called G, or Gulf airspace, and Gulf airspace is uncontrolled airspace. So as long as you're in uncontrolled airspace, you can fly 400 feet above the ground. So I'm going to show you some real quick slides to show you where this airspace is, and then I'm going to show you a really cool app that makes it simple for everybody. Now remember, these rules apply to all of us, so even if you're under 13, you have to check out, can I fly in my backyard without getting in any trouble? So anything other than Gulf airspace, you need permission from the FAA. Okay, so my background, I told you, I used to fly airplanes for the Navy, and this is the kind of chart that we used to use and still use in aviation. So you can see there's lots of lines and colors and dots and lots of things to try to interpret here. And this is what I teach in the class at the school, at the Anne Arundel Community College, on how to look at airspace. But the FAA has made us a better tool, and they have an interactive map where you can just put in where you want to fly, and it'll show you the restricted airspace. So I'm going to flip back one. See, this looks pretty confusing. This looks pretty straightforward. So this is a pretty big map. This shows Washington, D.C., and this shows Baltimore. I just wanted you to see how big of a scale here. And here's the Annapolis and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on a series of slides here. So the next slide, as I zoom in, so now the Chesapeake Bay is over here. This is still Annapolis down here on the corner. And this is Route 2 coming up. And the reason I show this is here is where I fly all the time, which is Anne Arundel Community College. This is where I teach my class. And what it's showing here is this is all unrestricted airspace. This blue line up here is restricted airspace, and this is up by Baltimore Washington Airport. And so they have a program that you can see where the restricted airspace. There's other restricted airspace. You see this right down here. This is the Naval Academy, the little blue area down here. And up here to the left is Fort Meade. So those are both federal property, and they're restricted. So you can just take this map and take a look and see if you can fly where you live. Now the next one down, this is a close-up on BWI. So there's a program, and since everyone's a little younger, you might have to ask your parents if you're trying to figure out if you can fly here. I'll show you the name of the program in these slides that you can go on and see if you can fly near BWI Airport. And what these are saying is out here on the outer reaches, even though this is airspace, they'll let you fly below 400 feet. And as we get closer, this is BWI right here in the top. And as you get close to BWI, you can see it's restricted. You can't fly above 0 feet. And the reason is this is right where the airplanes land. So they don't want any drones flying. And then as we go a little further away from the airport, this is the approach corridor where all the airplanes can come in and land. So you'll know if you live here, there's a lot of noise. When airplanes come in and land. So if you're right in the landing pattern, you may be restricted to just 50 feet or 200 feet or all the way back up to 400 feet. And you have to ask permission to fly in this airspace, but they'll give it to you right away. And it's in a program called Lance. So the program is called, one of the programs I used is Air Map, and Air Map uses this Lance system. So for this program, it's on the internet, and you can just use a computer and put in where you're going to fly, and it'll show you if you're restricted or not. So there's lots of other programs that also use this Lance program, and there it is. I was looking for what LANC stands for. LANC stands for the Low Altitude Authorization Notification. So if you're, I'm going to slip back 3 slides. So here, if you're in any of this airspace, you don't have to do this LANC request. This is only for if you're getting close to an airport. You can put in a request and ask to fly, and then it'll come back in a computer response right away saying, yes, as long as you comply with the following rules. So, and there's lots of different programs out there that you can use for this. I happen to use AirMap, but you could use any of these programs that give you and show you where this restricted airspace is. Now, the other one, this is on your phone. You can download this app from the App Store called Before You Fly, spelled out B, the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, and fly, Before You Fly. And this is really cool because what this does, and I'm going to show you, I have it on my phone right here, and when I pull it up, it shows exactly where I am right now. Let's see if I can get this on here. There we go. It shows exactly where I am right now, and it just says that I'm in yellow airspace. So there may be some restrictions where I am, and this program will show, you can then go down and it'll tell you what the restrictions are. Whoops, let's go back here. What the restrictions are, and you can read about what things may apply to where you are. So this is even easier than that AirMap, because this plots your phone and tells you where you are, and then will tell you if you're in clear airspace or not. And I use this all the time if I'm going to fly somewhere to make sure that I'm in a legal space to fly. So Before You Fly, it's a mobile app. So now the not fun part. This is the 7 things the FAA says you cannot do. So let's just talk about those, and then we'll see if we can answer some questions. We'll get through these real quick. So the FAA does not want you do not fly in controlled or prohibited airspace without permission. So anywhere near BWI, near federal property like Fort Meade or the Naval Academy, you cannot fly there without permission. never fly near other aircraft. So if I was flying today out in my backyard and I heard a helicopter coming, the first thing I'd do would land my aircraft or get it below the trees so that I'm not interfering any other aircraft that are flying around. Never fly over any persons or moving vehicles. So what they're saying is they want people to be safe when you're flying your drone. So don't fly directly over people. You can fly, a distance away from them, but don't fly directly over them. And this is a really important one. Never fly near any emergencies. So if there is an auto accident, any type of law enforcement activity, recently there were a lot of fires out west. If there's some type of storm or tornado, and there's a disaster relief effort going on. So if there's anything like that, if you hear sirens, that is not a time to take out your drone and go see what's happening. It's a time to keep your drone on the ground and let the emergency vehicles and responders take care of it. And the reason is, if there's a car accident, they may bring in an emergency life flight. If there's law enforcement activities, they may be using helicopters to help out there. Firefighters use helicopters. Disaster relief people use helicopters. And the thing with helicopters are they fly low and you won't see them. So the rule is just stay away from any emergency. So when I'm at the community college and I hear sirens going up Route 2, the thing I do is I bring the drone close to me and make sure that I'm nowhere near anything that's going around. Never fly under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So the FAA considers flying a drone like flying an airplane in their airspace. So you're not allowed to fly an airplane if you're using drugs or alcohol. So you're not allowed to fly a drone if you're using drugs or alcohol. Do not fly at night unless you have the proper lighting. So there's and my drone does not, usually it's aftermarket lighting. You need to put on a drone that's a bright light that can be seen from 3 miles away if you're going to fly at night. And do not operate in a careless or reckless manner. So I already said that. Keep your drone in control. Keep it in sight the whole time. But that's the do not by the FAA. And there are two other rules that are in development. They want you to fly by a set of rules. And there's going to be, in the future, there's going to be a test online for everybody who registers their drone. That test is not available yet, but the FAA is going to have it in the future, and it'll be on FAAdronezone.faa.gov. So it's going to be a requirement once they get the test published, but it's not published yet. So they'll give you plenty of time once they do and they'll probably be studying, and what I expected it to be, these same rules that we just said, these things right here is the things that you have to know to be a recreational pilot, and they'll probably have a real short test online that you'll do when you register your drone. So we talked all about recreational pilots, and I know no one here is over 16, but once you're over 16, if you want to fly drones for a business, you have to be a certified remote pilot. And that's one of the classes I teach at the community college. You have to be over 16. You have to, all the class and all of the tests are in English, so you have to read, speak, and write English. Be in physical and mental condition to safely fly a drone, and you have to pass an initial aeronautical knowledge exam. So that's what I help with is the first class I teach is all just an in-class about passing the test, and then once you pass the test, I also teach a class on flying drones, but I require people to be a certified pilot to go through my drone flying class. And right now we're in the middle of the fall semester, but I am offering classes in the spring, and I know you guys are all too young, so I won't have to talk about this, but in the spring I will be offering a new FAA classes for pilot ground school for people over 16 years old. So Jenna, do we have any more questions?
So not yet, but for everyone participating, feel free to share some questions in the chat or in the Q&A. But while we're waiting, I had a question for you.
Yes.
What is your favorite place to fly that tends not to have a lot of restrictions?
That's a good question. I do most of my flying at the community college, and we do some work. There's an east and west campus there, so I do a lot of work over what we call Dividing Creek or College Creek. That's between the two campuses there, so we do some environmental work there. So that's probably my favorite place to collect data, so that we can use it in other classes.
That's awesome. So my next question for you: do you have any suggestions for what drone to start with for somebody who's interested in getting one?
Oh, that's a great question. So the interesting thing, you can get into the drone bit, to get and I bet, I think we missed did we miss a poll about what your drone experience is?
You know what? We did. I can go ahead and pull that up if that is
Let's
helpful.
throw that up there, and then as we get those results, I'll talk about because we might find out some people already have drones.
And we did get a question just now through YouTube asking, how do you know what kind of drone to get? Because there's so many.
Great question. So we'll see what they say as far as people's drone experience here. Like I fly all the time. I flew my friend's drone. Yep, that's the first drone I flew was my my friend's drone before I got my own. Oh, there's somebody that's flying all the time. That's so cool. So we have one person that flies a lot, a bunch of 3 people that have flown their friend's drone, and one wants to learn about drones. So the question about what type of drone to get. So they have all sorts of the inexpensive drones. You can get probably under $100, and they're hard to fly. So they're fun to learn. I have one that's probably $70 that I fly in my basement. But it's very light and very small, and you tend to crash them a lot, but they're pretty durable. So that's a good drone to learn with. And then I just got a warning on my controller because my battery is low. And then as you get more expensive drones, it actually gets a lot easier to fly. So this drone I have is rather expensive. It's probably close to $2,000 because it's a commercial camera. It's a 4K HD quality camera, and it has all of the systems on it so that it can stay steady and fly by itself and avoid obstacles. So this drone is very easy to fly, but it's a lot more expensive. So I would start with some less expensive, and if it's really small, you might be able to fly it in your basement or in a room that doesn't have a lot of things that can get damaged.
So I know with drones, there's 2 different types. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's the ones where it has a camera on it and you're kind of directing it by what you're seeing from the camera. But then there's also ones that don't have a camera. Do you think one's easier for people to start with over the other?
Yes, the first person view, which is when you're looking through the camera on the drone, is very difficult to fly. So I think it's easier to fly a drone that you're looking at and that you're looking at the drone and you can see where it's going. Now, the tricky part about that, and I'll still do this when we teach our class, I will fly the drone. I will always have my shoulders pointed in the direction of the drone. So when I was bringing the drone in to land, I turned myself this way. I turned to look at the drone so that when I'm oriented with the drone, so right is right and left is left and up is up and down is down. The really hard part is if the drone gets turned around this way, where I'm trying to take a picture of myself, then right is left and left is right, and you have to concentrate a lot more. So one good trick is when you first get a drone, always stand behind it and get your controls fixed so that you can go left is left. Oh, let me stop sharing my screen so we can see. You might be able to see me a little better. So what I was saying is so I always stand behind my drone. So right is right and left is left. And then you can practice a whole bunch of drills on flying the drone and keeping it controlled as you fly it.
All right, so I don't think we have any other questions yet, but I do have one more question for you.
Yes.
So I know the class that you teach is about commercial drone piloting. So what are some of the things that people do with a commercial drone license?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've worked, even just at the college, I work with the environmental department. So the environmental department uses it to collect data on the trees and to see what's happening with the stream in there. I work with the video students. So in the visual arts, we teach a video editing class, and we use the drones to collect video footage so the students can fly the drone and then edit all that together as part of a class project. Architecture uses them for looking at buildings, so you can, take a look at any type of buildings. And occupations, just about, it's starting to creep into everything. I said law enforcement. Not only, I really only mentioned that they use, helicopters. But now law enforcement is starting to get drones, like at a traffic accident. Some police departments, you can take out a drone, take overhead pictures of the traffic accident and put the drone away, and you can actually, collect a lot more evidence of what happened very quickly, and then get that road cleared faster and safer, because you don't have to have people walking in the road. They use it to inspect buildings, bridges, power lines, just about anything that somebody used to climb a ladder for, they're now using drones for. Just last week, my neighbor somebody was looking at his roof, and the guy brought a drone and flew a drone up so he didn't have to take a ladder out of his truck and climb on top of the roof. So they put a drone up and looked down at the roof, and they could say, oh, this is what needs to get fixed.
That's awesome. And we do have 2 more questions. So Nicholas asks, if you're younger than 13, can you get a larger drone, or is there any way, because they have been piloting a small plane for a while?
So yeah, so you can still fly a drone if you're under 13. It just has to be registered by your parents. So same thing with the airplane. The airplane that you're flying, if you're flying airplanes, but it has to be registered, and you have to be over 13 to register the drone. So yes, you can fly a drone under 13. And that would be up to 55 pounds. And 55 pounds, on that slide, there was 2 sticks of butter. There was also a bag of concrete, and a bag of concrete at Home Depot is about 50 pounds. And that's pretty heavy. So I don't have a drone anywhere near 50 pounds. My drones are all probably under 10 pounds.
So then another question we have is, where is a good place to get a drone?
Oh, that's a good question. Now, I do most of my shopping on the internet, just because, so Amazon is a good place to look. And the one thing I like about Amazon is I like to look at the reviews, because there's a lot of cheap drones out there, and people will tell you that it's not worth the money. You can also just look at, Google a good article, and you want to make sure the article is very recent, because they're coming out with new drones all the time. So you want to look at an article that's been printed in like 2020. If you're looking to buy a drone, like you'll find some magazine or somebody online giving drone reviews, and I would think that's the best place to go.
Do you have any recommendations for websites or magazines that do drone reviews?
Ooh, I don't, but I could look something up, and we could send it out with the email. How about we do that? Because I can definitely find a decent review, and we can include that.
That's perfect. And then I don't know how many drone reviews there are, but the library system has online consumer reports. So that might be another place to look for some of the reviews as well.
Yeah, I have not looked at consumer reports for a drone review. But those are a great place to look for reviews.
And then Leaf asks, what is your favorite drone?
Oh, I like the one that I flew today because it's compact, and it has I think the Mavic 2 Pro, and one of the reasons is I have 2 controllers for it. So when I take this out with someone else, especially with my students, I can fly the drone and they can control the camera. So that's unique to this Mavic 2 Pro that I have, that I can let a student control the camera where I can fly the drone where he wants me to, and it takes some burden off me trying to do the photography work at the same time as flying.
All right, that's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and check real quick for any last questions, but I think that might be it.
Well, I want to thank everybody for showing up today, because it's been a lot of fun talking to the group about drones and what we do with them.
Yeah, and thank you guys from the library for attending our program. I hope you enjoyed. We'll be sending out the information that was in the PowerPoint slides in the next couple of days. And yeah, feel free to check out our website for other fun events for teens.